Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the REDX podcast. Thanks for being with us. My name is Tyler Fenn. I'm the Director of Sales here at REDX, and I have returning guest Colton Lindsay with us. Colton, thanks for taking time out of your day to talk with us today.
For sure. What's up, gang? How y'all doing?
So we've got people. They're streaming from Facebook, from YouTube, from our website, and hopefully they're going to chat in their questions and things. Because as we talk about lead follow up today, I think that's probably one of the things, Colton, that a lot of agents just don't know how to do as well as they should. And so I'm excited to have you educate us, take us to school, and teach us a few things. For people who might not know who you are, can you give us a brief biography and your history in real estate, which has been really successful?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are getting me on your end. My stuff's frozen over here, so hopefully you guys can hear me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, so I apologize with that. So yeah, I got into real estate 2005. First 10 months failed miserably, sold 2 houses, and then looking back, I look at the reason why I failed is I didn't have a system to follow. I didn't know what I was doing. I think that's where a lot of realtors fall into today is they just don't know where they're at and what to do and how to move forward. So once I figured that out, I scaled my business 20, 30, 40, clear to 75 deals a year as a single agent. Then I built a team, built a brokerage, built an investment company, built the WGR Academy. And here we are today. People like you guys have me on your podcast. We add value to people's lives. And that's it in a nutshell.
That's awesome. And I couldn't agree more. I think the biggest reason people fail getting into real estate is because nobody gets into real estate expecting to fail, right? Like everybody gets into real estate with super high hopes. Everybody wants to make millions of dollars and sell hundreds of homes every single year. And I think when you look at those that succeed and those that don't, it's creating systems and processes and then repeating those over and over and over and analyzing and tweaking the results here and there. But I think that's really, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? As you didn't have a system and a process. So I'm excited to talk about that.
I think it's 2 parts real quick. Just so you know, I think it's 2 parts. I think 20% the systems and processes. I think 80% psychology and emotional state in believing that I can actually do it. Once you get the system and process into place, it's going to get jacked up over and over again. And the question is, are you going to have the ability to correct and continue, or are you going to fall into the drama? It's very easy to fall into the drama today. With technology, with the media, with everything going on, there's a lot, and you got to stay to that focus over and over again, correct and continue.
So let me call an audible here then, and let's talk about that for just a little bit before we get to the systems and the actual lead follow-up. Because if 80% of it is mental, let me ask this question: if I was a brand new agent, Colton, where would you tell me to start to create that mindset that I need to make sure that when things don't go my way, that I can still pick things back up, piece it back together, and continue to move forward?
Well, yeah, I think let's be clear. I don't think it's just all mental. I think it's psychological and emotional. So I think those are 2 parts of that. You think about it, when we have all we have is time, and time equals emotion. Just to kind of fast track this, usually people think it equals opportunity or money or something like that. But the reality is, I believe time equals emotion. The question is what emotion am I experiencing? We look at most realtors today, especially if they're newer. We know they're going to fail. 87% of them are going to fail in the first couple of years. This is statistics, okay? And the fear when they're doing less than 10, 20 deals a year, making less than 50, 75K a year, the fear or the emotion is doubt, worry, maybe even a feeling of overwhelmment, insecurity, uncertainty. And until we can shift that emotion to absolute freaking certainty that I can make deals happen, that I can drive revenue into my business, that I am convinced that I can make it happen, until we can shift our emotion there, then we're going to be needy, and people are going to feel that, and we're going to show up always reacting to stuff. Okay, so the first thing that I recommend is get control of your day, get control of your thoughts, and get control of your routines. We have 3 parts of our day. We have a morning, a day, and an evening. So if you look at it, Tyler, what do most people wake up in the morning? They feel overwhelmed, looking at their problems, checking out their notifications, and they're just trying to catch up with all the crap they got to do. They have this to-do list. They get to the end of the day, and they feel like they didn't get anywhere, and they just have more to-dos to get done. They fall asleep with their mind going wild. So you got to get solid routines and rituals first before you can get a solid system in your business.
I love that, and I love how you broke it down. Right, we wake up and I think you're absolutely right. I think that people wake up and the first we do, obviously, I think most people, before we even get out of bed, is we pull up our phone, we look at our calendar, like you said, we respond to notifications, we see how many likes we got on that post we did yesterday, and that doesn't help us accomplish anything throughout the day. So what is, let me just break these down. You said the first thing for a new agent might be to get control of their day. What are some of the things somebody should be doing first thing in the morning? What are the things to set up their entire day so that it can be successful rather than a whole day of busy work?
Right. I think the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, what emotion do I want to experience in my morning? What emotion do I want to experience through my day? What experience do I want to, or what emotion do I want to experience at the end of the day? So if you're waking up with anxiousness or overwhelmment or dreading all the crap you got to do for the day and you're diving right into it, I recommend that you start with something simple to give yourself some peace, some tranquility, and some clarity. So a couple of actions. First action is I would write down the 3 things that made you smile or laugh in the last 24 hours, and I'd replay them in your mind so that you can, because repetition is the mother of all skill. You want to repetitively build that emotion of laughter and excitement and fun and enjoying your life. After that, give yourself some space, whether it's go on a walk, sit on the deck drinking coffee. For me, it's breath work, meditation, stretching, and Tai Chi. But give yourself space to where you don't feel like you've got to save the world in the first hour or 2 of your day. And then start to crank up your energy with clarity and enthusiasm. So one of the rituals I recommend every day, I call it a smart day mixed with what Tony Robbins calls RPMs, rapid planning method. But basically it's a 30-minute CEO meeting with yourself where you get clear on the outcomes for your day, understand how come it's important for you, like flood it with certainty. What's this going to do for you? And then come up with 3 to 6 actions that it's going to drive that outcome. Okay, so here's an example. One of the outcomes I think all you guys and gals want is to be a badass business warrior that drives revenue into your business. I mean, who doesn't want to have that outcome where you're just driving revenue, freaking warrior, you're making business happen. But then you got to look at, well, why is this important? We got to flood it with certainty. So when I flood it with certainty, I say, well, because it's going to add revenue to my business. It's going to increase my net worth. It's going to increase my ability to provide for my family. It's going to allow me to restore my Model A4, whatever. You flood it with certainty, whatever your thing is. And then what are 3 to 6 actions? So for as a realtor, one action could be spend 35 minutes just mastering my skill set, whatever my communication skill set is for the day. One of my actions could be to call using REDX, call FSBOs and expires for 45 minutes. One of my actions could be to prepare the Jones listing appointment for today. One of my actions could be to go on the listing appointment, right? So you get clear, but keep it to 3 to 6 actions on that outcome. Otherwise, you get overwhelmed on it. So that would be the number one thing I would do, is start with an emotion of peace and then move to an emotion of clarity with a CEO meeting with yourself.
I love that. And I'm writing down these actions, right? You're saying 3 to 6 actions, and all the examples you gave, these are directly related to making money, right? You talked about, you talked about spending 35 minutes honing and practicing your skills, getting better at what you do. That could be scripts, that could be overcoming objections, whatever it is. You talked about prospecting to expireds and FSBOs, which I love. You talked about preparing for and going on listing appointments, all these things related to making money, directly related to making money. And I think that's fantastic. I love that. So, and I think that's an awesome way to charge your morning. I think that's a great way to get up. I love the question, what emotion do I want to experience today? And then to ask that for each portion of your day, I think is fantastic. I think that.
Well, here, I want to share this to you. Until you're making $150K a year, you have 3 major things to focus on. Okay. And to create and what you're going to tolerate or not tolerate. Number 1, it's setting 5 appointments, whether it's a buyer appointment, a seller appointment, or a networking appointment with your database. So 1 is setting 5 or more appointments. Number 2, mastering your communication skills, whether that's sales skills, leadership skills, whatever. No matter what level you get to, you're always going to be mastering your communication skills. The 3rd is growing and nurturing your relationships through your network, whether that's past clients, sphere of influence, leads, whatever. You got to be nurturing those obsessively. Once you get to that 150K plus mark, then you're gonna focus on those 3 still, but also 4, 5, and 6. Number 4 is you're gonna focus on leverage. How do you leverage yourself through technology assets such as REDX software or something like that? Dropbox is an example. There's so many examples of that, but then also human asset, whether it's a buyer's agent, junior agent, senior agent, whatever, assistant. Then the 5th thing you're gonna focus on and you're gonna really create as part of your attributes is leadership. You are leading yourself, you're leading your clients, your community, your family, your organization. And then the sixth thing is really mastering ownership, responsibility for what you have created, no matter who's in charge of the systems you've built, but really owning that, hey, I'm here to serve, I'm here to add value, I'm here to contribute. So until you get to that 150, focus on those first three. Once you get to those 150, move to leverage, leadership, and ownership.
I love it. And it sounds, the way you break down, right? Numbers 1, 2, and 3 versus 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, and 3 sound a little more granular on the day-to-day stuff. Here's the skills and things that you have to leverage. Whereas, leveraging yourself, focusing on leadership, building ownership, those seem much more big picture, right? I mean, once you get to the point, like you said, 150K, now we're thinking a lot more big picture. And that's kind of what I take away from those six things you just said. Focus on the granular, focus on building a foundation, and then focus on building the skills that you need to scale and continue to grow well beyond 150K. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the challenge. And I don't know if you guys grew up rich. I didn't. I love my parents, but they weren't wealthy. So I didn't know how to spend money like wealthy people spend. But realtors, they make their first $150,000, $200,000, and they think they're freaking rich, right? So they start spending their money on liabilities, and that's taking money out of their pocket. If you can manage your cash flow, and then so that you get great at then investing in leverage, you'll create leverage residual income and you'll be free for life financially. Unfortunately, most of you guys are creating a slave system in your business and you're working 29 hours a day, 8 days a week just to pay for the liabilities. And when the market shifts, you're screwed, right? So you got to really break. 150 is a pivotal point, I believe. Okay. That's the point where you're either going to be stuck in that spot forever if you make it, or you're going to be able to explode into financial freedom. That's your choice.
So that's the ceiling to the glass ceiling to break through in your experience is people who get to that 150, they either stay there or that's when things really take off.
Right. Or I mean, they might go beyond that, but if they continue those systems, they'll be a slave to the business. Here's an example. I see it all over with big teams. They say that, hey, well, I'm just investing my profit back into my business so we can grow it. I say bullshit. You can't control your expenses. We're in business for profit. I don't know about you guys over at REDX, but over here with the WGR, we're here to profit. We're not here to just make gross revenue. And when we can profit, then we can move it into other assets and we can create more leverage residual income. Unfortunately, I don't think there's many real estate models out there that teach that. They teach to drive through having bills and liabilities. I want to make sure people become free with their business.
So you're saying we want to work on top line, it's a WGR top line, bottom line, right? How much gross revenue do I come in while keeping my expenses as low as I can?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I think I would agree. I think that there's a lot of real estate professionals out there that don't take a lot of those things into consideration. And I do think that there's probably a ceiling that they hit where that has to change, right? Some of these skills that you just mentioned, leadership, ownership, those things have to come in because you have to begin to be aware. You have to be a business professional in order to run a business that's continuing to bring in 150K revenue per year or more, right? If you want it to continue, you have to learn those skills and things. You have to. Well,
really, even today, 150K is not going to get you very far.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like with the amount of inflation going on, 150, that's just, I mean, that's average at best.
Right. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. So yeah, I'm totally on board. I love this. I think that, and I want to get to talking about systems and things because that's what we promised to our listeners today. But I think that this, and I like how you said psychological, right? It's mind state, it's mental and emotional, because I think that's crucial. And we'd love to have you back. I think that we could spend 2 or 3 more hours easy just talking about that, right? And getting into the nitty gritty of some of the details of how to build and how to focus on and how to get better at some of these things that you're talking about, which is awesome. But let's talk about systems and things for a bit. As I mentioned in the beginning, I think there's a lot of people that don't have the proper systems in place. Maybe before we talk about more granular, let's talk high level at what some great follow-up systems look like. What have you seen in your experience of systems of really great lead follow-up?
So I think we have to understand when we're talking about systems with lead follow-up, we're talking about technology assets. Okay. So we live in a really extremely awesome opportunity today with all the technology we have. Unfortunately, what we need to be careful of is to not forget our job is to close real estate deals, and we do that by having conversations with people, setting up appointments, getting contracts signed. So we can't get lost in the technology asset, but what we need to be able to do is utilize that to get to phone calls. So, I mean, there's technology like you guys have. With REDX, I'm not as familiar with the program as far as how your dialer works, but you're being able to see things today where as you generate a lead, it goes into the software, and then the moment that that new lead comes in, guess what? It's dialing you as an agent, so you get them on the phone. If they don't answer, it's sending out an automated text message sequence, and it's sending out an automated email sequence, an automated video sequence. And when you do that, the objective is drive them to a conversation and move them to a presentation to see if they're qualified and to get a contract signed and move them through the process. Okay, so you have to understand, well, we talking seller or buyer follow-up. And when we look at a seller follow-up, most people today, they want to avoid conversations. True or true? They don't want to be on a phone call because they're afraid they're going to get what? Sold something. So we have to kind of move through what Grant Cardone talks about as informational selling, and giving them just enough information, but leaves the cat curious, leaves them to say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to schedule a call with this guy or this gal. I really want to talk and get more information because this uncertainty is killing me when I have a $500,000 asset. I don't want to leave any money on the table, sort of thing. So you got to be quick to respond to them, and you got to be able to lead them to phone calls. I think that's the simplest version. How quick can you be to respond to them, and how quick can you get them to a phone call? And know that even when you respond quickly, they're not going to answer. They're not going to respond. So you can't just try once or twice. You're going to have to try 8, 9, 10, sometimes 12 times before you just get told to no. And don't move on until you get told no or you get an appointment scheduled. That's what I recommend. Until you get told no or until you get a conversation with them, don't move. Don't forget the lead.
Okay, I love it. Keep trying. There's a lot of systems out there that you've got new leads every day. Just move on to the new leads. Whereas what you're saying is having a great system allows you to not let anything slip through the cracks. You're talking about a $500,000 listing. That's something that you don't want to slip through the cracks. And so you continue to follow up, continue to try to communicate with them using these systems and things until either they give you a solid no or you set a listing appointment.
Yep. And this is really the leverage level that we're talking about. Before people leverage through human asset, you got to leverage through technology asset. This is where you get stuck at 150. Instead of spending money on building out a proper automated follow-up system and investing into that consistent flow, you're buying a Land Rover. So I think it's important that we drill in on this. Don't spend your money on liabilities. A technology asset, whether it's the REDX software or their database, or I use a company called High Level. With when a lead pops in, it puts them through our text message system and our email and phone call system. So you got to be able to have that system. I think another rule to follow with this is use proven systems that are already proven to work. Too many of us, we want to recreate the wheel, which you can do that, but why take 10 years to build a wheel when you can take 30 days? When all you got to do is just duplicate a system, right? So realize that, build that system, especially once you get to that 100 to 150 mark. Understand that you've got to have the automated system. And then you got to think, well, what automated system do I build, right? And I think it's important that we identify the leads, okay? Lead number one, we're going to look at is a hot lead. To me, a hot lead, someone signing a contract in 5 to 30 days, okay? 5 to 30 days. A warm lead is someone that's doing something in probably 1 month to 2 years. So you got to be consistent with that. An influencer, hey, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I apologize, everyone live. I'm working at home here. Hey, sweetie, Daddy's on a super important phone call, okay? So we've got so many people listening to us. What, baby? Okay, go see if she's here. Go check out the front door. Apologize, guys. This is what's happening when you run a business and you're a single dad. You got your daughters running in, so appreciate your patience.
Yeah, not a problem.
The third type of lead we have to look at is what I call an influencer, guys. An influencer is someone that's either going to refer me business or is going to possibly do business with me just because I have a relationship with them. Okay, they're kind of like my army troops. And then the fourth type of lead isn't even really a lead. It's what I call a prospect. This is someone that might be thinking of buying or selling. I don't know. I just have to have a conversation with them and then categorize them either into a hot lead, a warm lead, or maybe even an influencer. Or I might just decide that's not a relationship I want to develop. Then when we can identify those 4 types of leads, we can build out what is a hot lead. If a hot lead's in the next 30 days going to sign a contract with me or someone else, what is the series of emails, text messages, and phone calls that will lead them to have a conversation with me and schedule a face-to-face appointment, whether it's via Zoom or in person, so I can give a kick-ass listing or buyer's presentation and get them to sign a contract? Then we have to look at that warm lead. If I know that it's going to take 1 month to 2 years possibly for their motivation to get cranked up enough, then what is a series of conversations through text, email, appreciation events, retargeting ads, postcards? Can I stay in front of them over a recyclable or a cycle of every 12 months so that the moment that their energy shifts, I'm the right guy or the right gal at the right time that gets the conversation, gets the appointment, and gets the contract signed? And then with influencers, it's very similar. We want to continually to have a structured relationship builder with them so that we can go ahead and encourage them to send us referrals. And the way we do that is by being a massive value adder. I love client appreciation events. Even with COVID right now, I've got over 400 people that have RSVP'd for my event on July 25th at the Ogden Eccles Dinosaur Park. And people want to be involved in the community. They want to get outside. They want to do fun things. They want to do more than just hear you tell them about the interest rates and in the market of stats. Although that is important to be a resource for that, they want to build relationship. They want to know what you stand for with your values, with your culture, with your morals, and your standards. And when you can you can portray that through a series of events or text message or emails or videos or retargeting, then all of a sudden they want to be on your side. They want to help you. They want to add value to you. Now, I don't know how to really go in depth on those different types of sequences that need to be in place, but they got to be built out. And a simple version that you can do right now as a realtor, take those 3 areas: influencer, hot lead, or warm lead, and come up with a plan. Let's say it's the hot lead. Come up with a plan that you're going to follow up with that lead over the next 30 days through email, phone call, text messages, and be aggressive with it. Meaning, if you think you need to wait a week, wait 3 days. If you think you need to send only 2 text messages, send 4. Be overly aggressive and let them tell you no. Because you're not trying to make friends with all these people. What you're looking for is a phone call. And when you get them on a phone call, your skill sets are on point, because that's the second thing you're focusing on next to setting appointments is mastering your sales skills. You get on a phone call and you're going to convert 80-90% of them to an appointment if you get good enough. You get good enough, game over. All you have to do is sequence to appointments and appointments to contracts.
So I love this. I love this idea, and I love that you're saying, hey, start with these 3 things, right? We've got a hot lead, a warm lead, and these influencers. It sounds like your network, right? People that you know
right.
who may do business with you or refer business to you.
Correct.
And you said, I don't know how to get into this, but let me ask a few general questions that'll apply to each one of those categories, because I think that's where a lot of the listeners to this podcast are going to take away. They're going to go, okay, I might not have a system in place, or maybe it's not producing the way that I want to. And you mentioned cadence, right? Like the series of emails and phone calls and text messages, and how do you do that, and what does that look like? So I want to talk about that a little bit, because that process is where people are always wanting to know more. How can I make this better? So let me ask a couple of questions related to that. You talked about phone calls, text messaging, emails. You mentioned client appreciation events. These are all ways that you can have touches with these people, that you can communicate with them. Let's talk about text messaging for just a little bit, because that's such a hot thing right now, especially with COVID and people are home, and text messaging seems to be far more widely accepted than maybe calling somebody out of the blue. Mm-hmm. What are some good ways that I can initiate, or what are some good reasons for me to text somebody out of the blue? Because that's maybe one of the things that we get from people a lot is, I don't know what to say, right? And I don't want to come across with sales breath. So how do I start a conversation via text message? What's a good reason? So let's talk about that for a little bit.
So I think it's important to know like who you're texting when we talk about texting out of the blue, especially where you guys are a data company with REDX. Guys, you got to be very clear. Guys and gals, be very clear. Do not cold text message to random people. Because you're setting yourselves up for a big liability, okay? what I recommend is when you text people out of the blue, it's got to be some sort of opt-in lead. I don't recommend, and I don't know if you guys are teaching this or not, but it's up to you guys. I don't recommend just randomly texting expireds or FSBOs.
Correct.
Okay, because or even cold calls, like a lot of wholesalers are doing. But when you're going to text message, what I love is to leave some curiosity. Okay. So, most people, they're going to want to give too much information. They're going to say, hey, John, you had asked about this listing at 123 Pine Street. I just wanted to call you up. Plus, I got a bunch of other homes in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? They go on and on and on, or they're talking about their company or their brand. I like to keep it super simple. Hey, ... John, ? Because it leaves it so curious that people will usually respond to it. Okay.
Okay.
And so when they respond to it, your objective is to eventually move them to a phone call. So once they respond, I like to respond with say, hey, my records indicate you might be thinking of buying a house or selling a house. Is that true? Or is my info wrong? And you keep it kind of lighthearted and organic. Don't keep it so serious. Okay. And the moment they say yes and respond, call them. Okay, move to a phone call because they're right there. And if they answer, use your script, get them to set an appointment with you and have a conversation. If they don't answer, that's okay. Here's what you're going to respond with. You're going to say, hey, listen, schedule a call with me here. I have a couple questions. And you're going to send them a schedule link. People love using schedule links. You could use Calendly or something like that. I have one inside of my in my high level. So they schedule a call with me. And then guess what? I have an automated series of phone calls to move them to a Zoom call. I'm moving everything to Zoom calls now. People are more widely accepting that. And then all of a sudden I get face-to-face. I get face-to-face with these people. I use my skill set and I give them a presentation to where I get them to sign via DocuSign a buyer's agency. Or if it's a listing presentation, I get them to sign a listing presentation or a listing contract. So to keep it light, and then when they respond, go for a phone call. If they don't answer a phone call, send a schedule link. Okay, now this is going to be in the first day, but remember if it's a prospect and you don't know if they're a hot lead or a warm lead yet, you want to really crush them with a bunch of phone calls, text messages over about a 10-day period. And you want to just keep it light, keep it organic, and get them to engage with you.
I love it, and I love this idea, like hey, ... John ? Like so simple. Whereas you're right. I think a lot of people will write out a novel in a text message and hit send, and nowadays none of us want to read that. We skip to the very end and go, well, is there a question, right? What's the purpose of this text message? And so what you're saying is super short, super light, to the point. Give them the data in the conversation, in the phone call, not in the text message. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, you got to identify if these are manual text messages. Don't be afraid, especially if you can tell you got that blue bubble and they're normal Apple owners, like they're not weirdo Android people, but they got Apple phones. Drop them a voice note. Drop them a voice note and just say, hey, John, listen, it's Colton. Let me know when you got 2 seconds. Or, hey, John, it's Colton. Can you hop on a call real quick? Or, hey, John, I was, it came up on across my email the day you're thinking of buying a house. Is that true or is that false? Be really polarizing in it, right? If you say, are you thinking of buying a house? Is that true or is that false? If they're not serious, they'll say, hey, no, that's false. Or if they are serious, they're going to say something like, we're just kind of thinking about it, right? You want to get them engaging. And if they say, hey, we're not thinking about it, a good follow-up is say, hey, cool, do you have any plans of moving ever? Because they might be in 12 months. Remember I talked about those warm leads, but you got to identify. If you don't get the appointment, you also have to think, am I trying to identify, is this a warm lead or a hot lead as well? But if it's an automated, which if you get to that point where you're well over 150K a year, you better be automating this stuff. Then you're going to want to keep it more basic with the text message writing. You're not going to really have the time to use kind of a video or an audio, in the moment. It needs to be all automated.
Right. What are some of the systems? So let me just kind of interrupt the conversation we're having, because we talked earlier about how systems are technology. What are some of the texting solutions that are out there that you're familiar with, that you're using?
So we use High Level, and I sync that up with Twilio. Just get a Twilio number, whatever it's called, and I just text message right there. I use it in a bulk message for my sphere of influence. I use it in an automated campaign series when a new lead checks in. Or I use it for if someone requests information from me. I use it to where I send out my link to schedule calls. Here's an example for a bulk, right, from my sphere of influence is, I just said, hey, I'm doing my next WGR event on July 25th. How many tickets did you guys want for the dinosaur park? So then that way it keeps it kind of personal, and then they reply back to me of, oh, hey, thanks for the invite, Colton. We want 6 tickets. And then I can say, cool. And I have to manually reply to them. I can hop in my Eventbrite. I could program them in. They get a confirmation for their tickets to show up to the dinosaur park. Okay. Another way I'll end up utilizing that is I'll find out who actually RSVP'd and got tickets. I can create a tag of those people inside of my follow-up system, and I can send just those people a message. Say, hey, I just want to remind you we got the dinosaur park Saturday night. Also, we're going to have ice cream there. See you guys soon. And then that way it just gives them the reminder that's coming up. So you gotta think who is my target that I'm messaging. When it's an influencer, we want to keep it conversational. When it's a hot lead, we want to drive it to a phone call to get them to schedule an appointment with our schedule link.
So I love that, and we've got a couple of questions that have come in here that I'm going to jump to in just a second. But I like that you broke it down. You said, look, it depends on the audience. It depends on who you're talking to is how you're going to have that conversation. But I also love the idea of you've got to automate. You've got to get to the point where you're leveraging technology, because in our own research at REDX, we found that those agents that are netting $250,000 in income in their business every year, there's a huge amount of technology and money that they put into technology to make sure that they can continue to scale and grow their business. And it sounds like you're preaching exactly to that right here is you have to leverage, you have to spend your time and your money in the right place to make sure that you can continue to grow your business, and then spend your time on the part of the conversation that requires you, right? And that's the phone call, the listing presentation, and those 2 steps that you said, right? Drive into the conversation that drives to the presentation. So we do have one question from Amanda Smith out in Texas. Amanda, thank you for being with us. I think Amanda's on every single episode that we do. So thank you, Pat, Mike, Robert. Thank you everybody for joining. Amanda asks about postcards. She said, "Are you sending postcards?" So with these different methods of lead follow-up, are you using postcards at all, or are postcards not part of the lead follow-up that you'd recommend?
Absolutely, we are. And to identify that, Amanda, that's part of technology asset. A postcard is still technology, right? It's just not digital technology. So who do I postcard? I send a postcard out to my influencers once a month. And the whole reason is it's just another way to get my WGR brand in front of them for 6 seconds before they throw it away. Now, the cost of that through bulk is 34 cents. So it's a little bit more expensive, whereas I can retarget them on Facebook and I can probably get it as little as 12 cents for a 3-second view or something like that. Okay. But you want to mix it up. You want to get them from different angles. As far as postcards to FSBOs and expireds, I don't do postcards like that. My belief is on if I'm going to do something like that, I want it to be repetitive and do it forever. So my warm leads and my hot leads, I'll send them postcards. But if it's a FSBO lead like a prospect, I personally don't send postcards.
Okay. And then she follows up with this question. She says, when you use video, text, and emails, are your response rates higher? So you'd mentioned, look, if they've got an Apple and you've got an Apple, send a voice message real quick. Do you find higher response rates or higher engagement when you're using those different methods versus just a text message or text email?
You know what? I don't really, honestly, I don't really notice a difference with that. When I look at it is, okay, take a warm lead. Someone's going to do something over the next year to 12 months. I don't know exactly when their motivation is going to turn up. What I've found is being consistent in front of them in a passive and a proactive. Passive is the postcard. Passive is the retargeting. Proactive is text messaging to solicit engagement. Proactive is inviting them to a WGR event. Proactive is giving them a phone call. So you need to have both. And you'll get engagement from these people if you have a solid message, especially for a warm lead, that you're not constantly saying, hey, rates are this today. Hey, the market's doing this today. But if you're talking about things just besides that, like your event that you're going to do, or how you just help your sister get a refinance and saved $75,000 in interest off of her loan, when you're talking about that stuff that can really change their lives, then you'll get a response from these people.
I love that. I like how you break it down. Look passive, some things that we're just going to automate and it's just going to go to them, right? A quarterly newsletter about what's happening in the market, or updates about, here it's time to change the batteries in your smoke detector or whatever. But then you're saying, look, in addition to that, you've got to have the proactive. I'm reaching out for this reason. And going back to what you'd mentioned earlier, ultimately that reason is I want to have a conversation about whether or not you're going to buy or sell, or know somebody who wants to buy or sell. And then you're pushing those conversations then to a presentation, correct?
Correct. Yep. And even when you look at these influencers or your sphere of influence and past clients, you still want to be pushing them to networking presentations. Now, but pre-COVID, you take them for coffee. Post-COVID, you set them up for a Zoom call. And I actually think COVID is actually pretty cool for business owners in real estate, because I don't remember if I mentioned this the last time on your podcast or not. I know it was just right when we got into COVID, but it's just made it more widely acceptable to not have to drive 45 minutes to a listing appointment and do it via Zoom.
Totally agree.
You literally save so much time in your life and your day. And dude, we're signing contracts all day long via Zoom or via DocuSign when we do a Zoom presentation. So it gives you permission to save time and be more effective and efficient in your business. But get those networking appointments set up via Zoom.
Yeah, and I agree. We started this podcast right when COVID hit because we wanted to talk about how agents were still producing business through COVID. That was March and April, and it's shifted a little bit as for those of you who followed us from the beginning of this podcast 4 months ago, it shifted a little bit. We're talking less about COVID and more about how are we just doing business? How do the people who are successful right now do business? And I think that last comment you made is really consistent, as people are going, look, there's some things that have come out of this that we hope continue. We hope that Zoom continues, because you're right. You don't have to drive. You don't have to, you can be so much more efficient with your time by booking Zoom calls back to back rather than one appointment every hour because you've got 30 minutes of travel time in between. And I agree. I hope that continues. I hope that's something that—
I don't think it won't not continue. I mean, I was doing that with my agents before COVID. It was already happening. So what it does is it just allows you to create that standard. It will continue if you create the standard and believe it and do it. That's how it will continue.
I totally agree. I think what it's done is it's because it was very common in the business world, right? I mean, telecommuting and Google Hangouts and all these different solutions that were out there. I think what it's done is it's gotten the consumer into it as well. People that didn't really have a need, now they go, oh, everybody does this, which I think is really awesome. I think that'll continue. So I'm super excited for that. We've covered a whole bunch of stuff in just a really short amount of time, which is fantastic. What are some last thoughts that you'd want to leave with people if you had 2 minutes to say, hey, here's what I really want you to take away from this? What are some of those gold nuggets that you'd hope they would walk away with, some of the things we talked about?
Well, I think the number one thing is that people take away is right now you have the biggest opportunity in the history of your entire life to make more money than you could have ever made in your life. Like, money is falling from the frickin' sky right now, and deals are happening left to right if you're in front of them, and all you got to do is be in front of them. And one of the key parts of that, when we look at the 7 forces of business, is you got to be innovating. If you're not innovating, then you're going to miss out, because it's going to be a feast or famine. Either you're going to get a lot more money or you're going to get a lot less of nothing. And so I recommend you innovate and you take advantage of the greatest opportunity in the history of your career to make as much money as possible.
I love that. And let me just jump in here real quick, because innovating, like you said earlier, that doesn't mean reinventing the wheel.
No.
It means innovating in your own business, changing your own processes and getting better. That could be copying what somebody else who's already crushing it is doing and making a few tweaks and that's, or maybe no tweaks at all. But what I'm hearing is you have to be willing to change your business. You don't have to come up with new ideas. You just need to implement new ideas in your own business. Is that fair?
Change your business and change yourself, right? Because if your old belief system is going to hold you back.
Yes, I totally agree. And something like COVID makes it easy to do that, right? It makes it easy to get out of old habits and
it forces it. It forces us to shift, especially when we have so much uncertainty in today's world. I mean, you got uncertainty with, oh, what if I get this virus? You got uncertainty with your business. You got uncertainty with, the people that are important to you getting their businesses shut down. You got uncertainty with travel. You got uncertainty with, well, what really is going on today. You know what I mean? So you got so much uncertainty. And if you can come from this place of certainty and you can sit back and you can observe and be the eye of the storm, oh my gosh, the storm is just spreading currency everywhere. And if you can be a solid steward of that and capture it and funnel it into effective assets that are going to pay you over and over again, you never have to work again. You just don't. It's crazy.
I love it. I agree. Right now is an amazing opportunity. Colton, thank you. This has been. I've got almost 3 full pages of notes as I'm drawing lines back and forth to make sure that I remember where things correlate. It's been a fantastic 40 minutes. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or our website watching this, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. If you're not subscribed to the updates for this podcast, because we do this multiple times a week, usually every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1:30 Mountain Time. If you're not subscribed, go to our website, theredx.com. Once you're there, there's a link at the top for the podcast, and you can register to make sure you're getting those updates there. You can also watch all of our previous episodes and see the ones that are coming up. So make sure that you go there. If you're a REDX customer, you can also get updates, and you can communicate with other customers inside our REDX forum. So you can go get to that right from within Vortex. Make sure that you do that. Colton, hang tight with me for a little bit here.
Sure.
But thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. And we're excited to continue to see how things work out for you as the summer months continue to play out. But thank you for sharing some things with us today. It's been fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.